Hello everyone and welcome into episode 1 of the CommRadio Kickoff, brought to you by the Penn State CommRadio Football Insiders. I'm Logan Bourandas alongside my partner in Alex Rocco for this first show. And Alex, we're recording this on a Wednesday. Penn State opens up its first game of the football season on Thursday. How excited are you?
I can't wait that Penn State football is finally back. Just one more night till Penn State football, and there's a lot of expectations going into this season. Sort of a disappointing end to last year's season. Penn State reloaded with some transfers in the offseason, and the hype is really real around this team, and I can't wait for it. I don't know about you, though.
Yeah, I'm really excited as well. It's going to be a really fun season. A lot of familiar faces brought in with some new exciting pieces to this team. And let's start out with that season last year, because Penn State had a hot start. They went 5-0, and then everything just fell apart. The Iowa game on the road with Taquan Roberson kind of filling in. He had a rough first game a couple days ago against UConn. And from there, went from 5-0 to 7-6, lost their bowl game in the Outback Bowl in Tampa against Arkansas. That last season had high expectations, kind of shades of 2019 at the start, and then just fell apart.
Well, you mentioned that Iowa game, and that was really the big turning point of the season. A lot of players got injured in that game, including Sean Clifford, and like you mentioned, Taquan Roberson coming in, and he really wasn't prepared to play in that environment, and Clifford at that point was having a really excellent season. And then he goes down, P.J. Mustipher goes down, several other players such as Jonathan Sutherland, Arnold Ebiketie all go down. And for the rest of the season, a lot of players dealt with injuries. Clifford wasn't the same, dealing with a rib injury, and you just saw that in his play and just the team's play as a whole. They looked really demoralized after it. So looking forward to a fresh, clean slate from this year, but still keeping the result of last year and not finishing the best in your mind for this year.
Yeah, it'll be another chance for both Clifford and Mustipher, both returning for this year and healthier than ever, really. Clifford going to be entering his fourth year as a starting quarterback, trying to repeat that great 2019 season, which was his first season as a starter. And he'll be doing so with a lot of interesting new pieces to this team. Jahan Dotson going to be replaced by the Western Kentucky product, and Mitchell Tinsley, number 5 to number 5. And a really interesting freshman class as well, with a new backup quarterback in Drew Aller.
This freshman class is really, really exciting. And you mentioned new backup quarterback Drew Aller, 5-star product, number 32 in the nation, top quarterback in the nation by some sites. He has a lot of expectations, and James Franklin sort of surprised a lot of people naming him the backup. Christian Veyer was a lot of people thought he was going to be the backup, but nope, it's Aller, and he's just one of several freshman pieces going down, staying in that backfield. Nick Singleton, another 5-star. Katron Allen, both guys, Singleton and Allen, going to play in week 1 against Purdue. And still the depth that they have at wide receiver, Caden Saunders, in that top 6 wide receiver room. Their wide receiver room is extremely talented. So for a freshman like Saunders to be in that top 6, really impressive. But offensively, they reloaded, and same with the defense. This team has a lot of depth this year.
Yeah, and we talk about transfers coming in. Chop Robinson, just one of those guys coming in as well to help join that front 7. So it's a really interesting team. You talk about the offense, just the new pieces that are coming in, accompanied by some pieces of old, like Parker Washington's going to be back for another season, so it's a familiar piece for Sean Clifford to use in the receiving core. And Kevon Lee get another shot at the running back spot. He had limited touches last year, just kind of sharing carries with the players that he did, like Noah Cain and all those other guys in the backfield. And Lee going to get another shot to kind of lead this backfield alongside Devin Ford, who's been here since that 2019 season, where he's a part of that Lawn Boys team, the last remaining part of that really great backfield for Penn State.
I think the biggest returner isn't actually a player for this Penn State offense. It's offensive coordinator Mike Ursich. Sean Clifford has never had an offensive coordinator as a starter for 2 consecutive seasons. Now he does with Ursich. You saw last year, toward the end of the year, he started to get more comfortable with Ursich. Now he has a full offseason to work with him, so I expect Clifford to play more comfortable. And like you mentioned, the returners, Parker Washington and Mitchell Tinsley, I'm so excited for that duo. 2 of the top receivers in the Big Ten, and having 2 capable guys like Washington and Tinsley paired with a guy like Keandre Lambert-Smith, the wide receiving core is loaded. Even the tight ends, all 3 coming back from last year. Brenton Strange, Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren. It's a lot of returning pieces on the offense, but paired with those new young guys and Tinsley, it's a loaded team.
Yeah, Alex, continuity has been a rare thing for this Penn State team as of late. So now let's transition from last year to this year and really tomorrow, as Penn State already on the road to take on Purdue. One of the many recent times they have opened the Big Ten slate on the road, and doing so in week one. It's going to be a matchup between two top veteran quarterbacks in the Big Ten, Sean Clifford against Aidan O'Connell.
I'm super excited for this matchup. The battle of the 6 years. Aidan O'Connell last year played extremely well. 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, over 3,700 yards. But a lot of his success was due to his wide receivers. And his top 3 wide receivers from last year are all gone. David Bell went to the NFL. Milton Wright is academically ineligible. And Anthrop Jackson gone from the team. So when you're losing your top 3 players and wide receiver targets, it's going to be hard to adjust. Purdue's a team that likes to pass the ball, but now with those targets missing, it'll be interesting to see how they adjust.
Yeah, and this is a Purdue team that the Nittany Lions haven't seen since 2019 in Happy Valley. Penn State was on a great tear that season. They were able to win that game pretty much no problem against Purdue, so it should be a really fun matchup this year between those two teams, and Purdue going to have a blackout for this game as well to host Penn State, and it should be the start of a very exciting season for the Nittany Lions.
That's exactly right. The blackout environment. Penn State's no stranger to playing in these big games, and this is just one of many theme games that Penn State is going to face this year. The blackout against Purdue. Auburn has their orange game against Penn State. Michigan has their maize out against Penn State. So a lot of big teams that Penn State is facing, they're having their biggest games against Penn State. So it's going to be a really exciting start to the season.
It's definitely interesting for a team that opens the year unranked, that still their opponents value them as a tough task for their schedule. And Penn State, this is the first time they're unranked, I believe, since that 2016 Big Ten championship team.
That's exactly right. And a lot of fans, when it came out unranked, they saw Penn State unranked since 2016. And a lot of people were saying, is this the year Penn State wins the Big Ten championship? We'll see about that, but this team has a lot of expectations and a lot of just interest. It's a really tough schedule for this year. We were talking about it before the show. They have a lot of tough matchups. Purdue on the road, Auburn on the road, and then that 3-game stretch where you go Michigan on the road, Minnesota at home, and then Ohio State at home. A lot of tough tasks for this Penn State team, but really interested to see how they do.
Yeah, in that 3-game stretch, there's going to be a bye week in there as well, but to go from the maize out to your white out at Beaver Stadium, then right after that going down to Ohio State, that could make or break this Penn State team. And Michigan, they're going through some quarterback controversy themselves, but they're still coming off a Big Ten championship and a college football playoff berth. So it's going to be a tough task for this Penn State team. But as we kind of preview into the season, what are your expectations for this Penn State team?
My expectations for this Penn State team is really 9-3. I think it's a reasonable task, and a lot of people there's been predictions from 7-5 to 11-1. No one really knows with this Penn State team, and I think that's the beauty of this team because you don't really know what you're going to expect, so a lot of teams can't really prepare because you don't know what Penn State's going to offer. And just looking at that running back room, you don't know who's going to play a whole lot. Penn State's utilizing 4 different running backs, so to game plan against 4 different running backs is a lot harder than to game plan against one. So I think just with the running back room being improved, Franklin has emphasized the offensive line is being improved, but still there are questions at middle linebacker and still on that offensive line a little bit, even though they did add Hunter Norzad. The questions limit me to going full double-digit wins, but I think 9-3 is a good start.
I think 9-3 is realistic. I think 10-2 also is as well. I think the Ohio State game is kind of the common loss in a lot of these predictions, but even the game tomorrow could be a big trap game. Starting out the year on the road, kind of shades of 2020 with the Indiana game. You just hope for Penn State that it doesn't ruin the momentum heading into the rest of the way, because that 2020 year, they opened up Indiana, then I believe it was Ohio State right after. So it's kind of a tough task, but at least luckily for Penn State, they have Ohio kind of in between Purdue and Auburn, which could be a trap game as well. I mean, Auburn, they did lose Bo Nix. He transferred at the end of last year. It's big for them. They got Tank Bigsby back as well, who also entered the transfer portal kind of around the same time Bo Nix did. Michigan, you really don't know what to expect with their quarterback scenario. It could be one of two guys getting the start. J.J. McCarthy, could be Cade McNamara. We don't know what it's going to be just yet. And Penn State plays Michigan kind of mid-October range, so it could be an interesting scenario kind of there as well. And Michigan State lost Kenneth Walker to the NFL in Seattle. So that big running game that helped them out last year, that's going to be kind of limited at the end of this year.
You mentioned it, both Michigan teams losing a lot of players, and that quarterback controversy in Ann Arbor really is sticking out to me. Cade McNamara getting the start in week 1, J.J. McCarthy getting the start in week 2, and then they're going to decide which quarterback played better, and that's who's going to start for the rest of the year. So a little bit of unorthodox way of deciding who your starting quarterback's going to be, but I think in the end, I think it'll be McNamara, the veteran guy, but both guys are extremely talented, and for a Penn State team, luckily they play him in the middle of the season, so you're not game planning for 2 quarterbacks, but still, Michigan's a really, really good team.
And we'll see what happens with those teams as we get later on down the season. But thank you for listening to the first episode of the CommRadio Kickoff show. And you can listen to the game live tomorrow night in West Lafayette as Austin Groff and Matt Scalzo bring you the full broadcast live on CommRadio. But for my partner and Alex Rocco, I'm Logan Bourandas. You can listen to this show the entire football season. We'll bring you all the latest from around Penn State football.